What's going on, yo? It's another episode of the Wisemen Say podcast. You're up one of your hosts, Jerald Lucas, alongside Derek Abbott. You see,
Hola.
we are missing a face right now as he is off on duties with Ohio Dominican Soccer. Ty Fisher, maybe he will, maybe he won't. Who knows? He might jump in later on. Um, Derek, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. It was surprisingly nice out today, and we're supposed to get a
Can't
bunch
hear
of
you, Derek.
storms. Can you hear me now?
Oh, no. Looks like Derek is having more technical difficulties. If it ain't one thing, it's another. He'll jump back in as soon as he can. But me, I'm doing good. You know, if y'all are wondering. Been a little rough weekend, but you know, happy to be here with all you wise men and wise women out there in the crew universe. We do got a fun packed show tonight, as we do have a special host coming in later on, Elias G from the Ball is Round, to help preview this upcoming home match. We also going to be recapping the 2-1 win in DC. Crew pick up those 3 points, so we will be recapping that.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, this ain't a Verizon commercial.
Wow, you know what? Completely forgot about that. That was like all the rage back in the day. I don't know what happened. You heard me. It was working right before we went on. This happens every week now. I'm getting technical difficulties. You know what? We need a sponsor. If anybody out there has a new equipment company that they really need some people to test out for them, I will be your guinea pig and I will test it out for you. Can't get any worse than what I'm working with now, apparently. So,
oh my God. How you living though?
I'm doing pretty well. I am doing pretty well. I'm like secretly in a previous life or a future life gonna be like a weather person. So like the idea that we're supposed to get big storms tonight, like I don't love big storms, but I do kind of love putting on the TV and then just watching like Weather Channel or local news where they talk about them for like 3 hours. So I probably will get no sleep tonight as I'm just sitting up in bed watching them talk about stuff nonstop. Which yes, that's how most people would probably feel about weather watching. We live in Ohio, though, so you know if there's a tornado warning going on, everybody's going to go outside and stare at the sky looking for the tornado. So I know there's people out there who are with me.
Oh, my God. Columbus is not lucky enough to get a tornado. I told my fiance, I said, let's go grab some brooms and go play Quidditch or go see if we could go to the land of Oz.
Wicked. Yeah, there you go. That's true. We do, they talk about like there being a bubble around big cities, and I would say 99% of the time that is totally accurate because we just never really get anything within the city, but who knows? We'll see.
Oh man. Gotta love Ohio weather, right?
Mm-hmm. This time of year.
So let's jump into this. You know, like I was touching on while you were fixing your stuff, we are going recapping the 2-1 win over DC. We got Elias G coming on in from the Ball is Round, a Montreal podcast. Later on in the show, also previewing the upcoming home match. Cappies did play, so, you know, we will touch on that as well.
Big win.
Man. Also, somebody got signed to a first-team contract. We'll talk about who
I
it
was
is.
thinking of you about when I saw that.
We'll touch on that later on as well. So what do you say we kick the ball off and get going on this recap?
Let's do it.
Crew, we're in DC taking on DC United on Saturday. And what were you first off, what were you looking to see them come out and do in this match?
Yeah, I think we talked about it at the end of last week's episode where we wanted to see more from the attacking side in particular. At least I did. Wanted to see somebody establish themselves, whether it was Diego or if it was Jason Russell Rowe or if somebody else could step up kind of into that position because we talked about the game before. It was a bit cringy at times in terms of just like what we were doing inside the box or around the box and not really we either kicking moon balls or not really executing in any way that looked competitive at the end of the day other than just dominating the game but not actually finishing any of the stuff, which happy to say it looked like we were starting to discover some things.
So taking on DC, they were coming off of a 4-1 loss. And so it was going to, it was a matter of who was going to blink first, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, after watching and, watching the match over again, seeing the Crew came out aggressive. There was, and the Nazi also touched on it in the post game a little bit. There were a couple chances before Benteke scored, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what comes to mind is Diego Rossi had a double shot in the 11th minute and just was like, what's it going to take for him to get on the board, right?
Yeah, that's one of those things happen and you're immediately like, this is how the game's going to go when it happens that early. It really seeps into the mind of like a viewer for sure.
And then, it started off beautiful from Dewan.
Mm-hmm.
Dewan with the one touch pass to Max down, down the side and, Max doing a little zigzag and found Diego. Diego took the shot, got the rebound, and it was just like, come on now. But then Crew conceded first.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a beautiful, not going to take away from it. It was a beautiful goal by Benteke,
And we were saying how he was probably going to get his at some point.
Correct. It just was one of those. It's like I was looking more for the header,
mm-hmm.
Because he likes to be like some of those planes in DC and just take off flight anywhere. But it was, I can't remember what his name is. I know I think it's like Penglow or Penlow or something like that.
Yeah.
But the way that he nutmegged, I think that was Zawoski in the box. Ball to Benteke. It just was like, you can't stop that.
No, as soon as you see anybody do something like that in the box, especially like 9.5 times out of 10, once they get the pass off, you're like, they're going to score. Like it would take a Herculean effort from a keeper to be able to stop at that point.
Hey, if Patrick had a little bit longer arms, he might have.
That's
but true. Needless to say, the Crew respond, right? It was, you're wondering what's going to happen. They concede first. Are they going to pack up their, pack everything up and just, woe was me, whatever. But they came out and showed some grit. And Herrera had a chance to feather the ball across the goal mount.
He is getting closer. You said it a few weeks ago, and I was like, I didn't really have an opinion because I just hadn't seen him play a whole lot. But for playing the position that he does in the back, I mean, he is up there. Like, there's legitimate. Like, I would be shocked if within the next few games he's not scoring the way he's getting up there, really close and getting closer and closer to that.
He found Diego. Max got the secondary assist, but he found Diego, and Diego just let it rip, right?
Mm-hmm.
Boom. Crew are now level. And then the rest of the first half, it just seemed like it was just a back and forth game, right? In the first half. Whose defense, was better.
Pretty competitive at that point. It wasn't like against New York City, when we saw the stats, it looked like we really dominated that game. This was a much better matchup and game to watch of just what two wills going against each other, which was cool to see. I mean, we hadn't seen that.
It was in like I don't know, I can't remember who was commentating now, but it looked like, the XG goals should have been higher for both teams, honestly. Crew taking shots, New England being dangerous in the box. There was a 2-on-1 that Chaburko broke up.
Yeah.
Like it would have been a 2-on. It would have been unfair for Schulte. He wouldn't know who to, you couldn't pick your poison.
Those
but
are tough.
Chaburko,
and I feel like it usually when you see that go down, a lot of people before they take the shot, you're like, oh, here we go. Like you don't typically expect a defender to realistically break that up much. So that was really awesome to see.
without causing a penalty.
Yeah, yes.
That's always, always the Crew's luck, something like that. And, a card is shown or, somebody's getting hit with the red card. And it's, just like seriously, but smart play, brilliant play, actually, at that, poking that ball away to stop that 2-on-1.
Yeah.
There was a questionable call by the ref in the first half. I don't think I'm hearing a lot of people are saying it should have been a red. I think they got it right with the yellow card. When I can't remember his name, Bartlett. When Bartlett went in on Max, studs up.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he didn't get that first leg. And I think that's what saved him from being a red.
Did they end up I'm guessing that they Toronto. Where's the review at? New York?
Austin? Or no, not I don't. Sometimes it's in Dallas. Sometimes who knows where the hell the
review, like the central review places. But I would assume in those scenarios they would probably do that, and then if they see something, tell them to go to VAR, right?
Yeah. But they ended up checking it.
Oh, okay.
They
held
play for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah. Why didn't you tell me I didn't have the ticker going?
Legitimately forgot.
Now I feel like Ty up here. No, but they ended up checking it. It was a quick check. But I think by him getting the trailing leg, that's what saved him from getting the red card.
Yeah.
Because had it been that first leg, I think it's hard to deny that that's a reckless play.
Yeah.
Studs up on the front leg.
Just completely bulldozing into them at that point. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I don't agree with Jason getting the yellow card for what he did. Dewan was fouled and Chris Penzo didn't do nothing. And I don't think I couldn't see the foul on it, but maybe it was because, he might have wrapped him up like a burrito. I didn't see it.
No, I didn't. I mean, again, that's at first when those happen, I'm like, a little ticky-tack, could be here, could be there, either side of it. But again, the fact that we're bringing some of these things up, I don't love. Again, just be a little more consistent with it overall. But it ultimately, it didn't play a massive factor, that particular foul. So I'm not going to get overly upset about it at the end of the day.
Yeah, so, I mean, first half 1-1, right? It looked like, I'm still catching up on the recap as some of you might know I was in the hospital since Thursday night. Well, Friday morning, really. But so I'm really catching up on everything. Connor says, what's up, guys? Manuel, what's up? What were you doing out in D.C.?
At the
Connor
game?
Says, he might have went to the game.
If you were at the game, Manuel, give us a little scoopage on what you thought of the I'm always interested in the arenas because I haven't really, or the stadiums because I haven't really been to one. So give us a
Audi
quick
Field
synopsis.
sucks,
I've heard that. I've heard that a lot.
especially when it rains. Connor also says, I think Rossi has accepted the fact that he's going to be the guy until the striker comes in.
Feels that way.
I think both Jason and him have, come to terms like, look, this is our time. Let's make the most of it. Who knows who's coming in and, there's still time to got 21 days till this window closes, and then the summer window. So, and then talking about Herrera, I really think he is playing for that permanent transfer.
I think so too.
It's
he's every game we've talked about him. It's hard to deny that he's like showing up on the like broadcast, or not just on the broadcast, but like anybody who's watching the game is at some point thinking about something he did when they're like recapping it to themselves after the game. So I mean, when you're doing that and they're all positive things, inevitably, I mean that's all you can ask for in his position. You're not looking for him to score goals necessarily. It'd be great if he does, but everything he's doing has all been a net positive so far.
I mean, but he can also play two different positions. He can play that right center back.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen him fill in that role for Herrera. And then also he can play winger.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Nancy had him at against DC. He had him up there on the wing. So I think he's more valuable at that winger spot. Right?
I 100% would agree.
Because he's getting up to that box. He's getting up there, right? He's pushing, he's pushing. So I think he could be utilized more there, but he's also a great defender too. So,
and if they decide games they don't want him to start for one reason or another at this point, I mean, he could be the guy that we were talking about last week and the week before, is we need some guys coming off the bench who are going to really like up the energy level when they come in at the 70th, 80th minute. And if he's someone who you can stick in the winger position and he's coming up and right into the box and making a difference like that, that's even better because you're not having to like swap in a new striker in order to get that energy up. You can bring in somebody in a different piece and still have that same productivity or at least a threat of it.
He's almost playing a Christian Ramirez type role.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily on the front line, but he's playing that role that he could come in, defender or winger, whatever the case may be that Nancy needs. But he's one that, can be like a Christian Ramirez type, role, right? Oh, let's see. Who do we owe? Oh, man, what's going on, MLS Sicko? Manuel said he was there for spring break. It was cool representing the team.
Oh, I love that.
And he also said Arston was playing 3 roles. In Nancy's system, he wants players to play more roles.
Mm-hmm.
You might play wing position, but what your role is going to be, right? So, and Nancy did touch on in the San Diego match that, he was having Max play different roles. So
probably tested him out. And that's probably why he likes to play with a shorter bench than what you would typically see, to the much as a chagrin of us, because we just want to see more available options. But I think he likes the ability to be able to move those chess pieces around that are currently on the pitch. By just bringing one person on, you can move guys around to other roles that you feel really confident in them being in, and maybe change completely up your game plan, at least to, our vision, and really catch other teams by surprise because you've got them moving around so much they don't know what's happening, at least at first.
So I didn't get a chance to actually see when it happened, but Nagby goes down.
That was annoying. That was terrible. It was a classic case once again. Last year it was the talk of the entire year, in my opinion, and it's happening again where the referees are allowing these teams to just hack the crap out of someone like Nagby, and there's no repercussions for it. Like, they rarely throw a yellow, and there's rarely warnings. And even if there's a warning, there's no like follow-up warning or follow-up yellow that comes off of it 9 times out of 10. Like, it's just, and now we got a guy who I saw he was like listed as day to day today, and like, for what? Like, there was no repercussions. So like, if any other teams watch DC just do that and get away with it, I mean, they're gonna try. Why would you not? Like, if you don't think that the refs are gonna call anything, and historically the last year and into this year already, they're not gonna do it. So it's like, it's very disappointing to see. And I saw Nancy even made comments about it again, where he's like, what is essentially like, what's going on here? Like, why is this the case? And I haven't watched enough yet of other teams this year to see if it's going on with other teams and it's a continual thing across the entire league. I find that hard to believe, because I feel like you would see more of the talking heads talking about it, but it's just really frustrating. And especially now that he's like, injured in some kind of capacity, is just like, it's borderline unacceptable in my mind from like an officiating side of things to like continually do that. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it really is. They have that rule to protect, for the persistent infringement, on a player, but we don't see it, right?
Never.
I did see, however, Chris Penso almost gave Rossi a card in the first half for talking to him, and he kept trying to get in the way, and then he sort of reached to his pocket, and Nagby had to pull him back a little bit, but
it's only a matter of time. We'll see it sometime this year. I mean, we were mentioning it weeks ago how like he does it so much that you're like, all right, eventually they're just going to get tired of it. Especially like, it only takes one specific ref that does enough of the crew games this year to eventually it's just going to be like, I'm tired of it. Like, stop doing it and just card him for the sake of it. Like, vendetta, I guess, to a degree, but like, that would be annoying as a ref. I can understand that. And he's not the captain, isn't the captain's armband. So eventually they could at least use that and be like, this is not your role. Get out of here. Not with the red card. Get out of here with the yellow card. Not a red, though.
So it's 1-1, right? 65th minute happens. And who at it again? Diego. With just a blast outside of the box.
The confidence. He was feeling confident this week, and I loved every second of it.
It was amazing to see him. Now he leads the team in goals. Mm-hmm. 4 goals, all in league play. So he's making a case. I really think he can. If he could keep picking it up, maybe make a case for MVP.
Oh my gosh. See, now you got me on something I saw. It was either today or yesterday. Sasha Kleshin put out his like current MVP rankings. And of course, this means nothing in the grand scheme of things. But he had like Suarez is number 1 with like 1 goal and 4 assists. And like 1 or 2, the Messi was like 5th on there, of course. And like a bunch of guys, and like immediately, of course, because I'm a sicko, I'm like, got to go to the comments because I know people are going to be losing their minds on here. And like everybody I thought was pretty accurate there. Like, I know it means nothing, but still, like, how is Diego Rossi or somebody like that not getting like even a sniff at this point? And then you've got 2 or 3 Miami guys on there, one of which has only scored 1 goal and 4 assists is like not bad, but a lot of times you're measuring MVP off of goal scoring. I mean, let's be real. That's typically, at least in the beginning of the season, you're probably leaning a little harder on that. And then later on, it might level out. But I just thought that was ridiculous. And I was like, you know what? If that gets brought up, I'm going to mention it because I'm sure other people find that to be annoying. But the soccer media people, like the talking heads, I don't pay a lot of attention to, I will admit. So like sometimes those float on my timeline, but I don't seek them out by any stretch of the imagination.
And maybe we see Rossi for the Golden Boot. As Derik freezes up again. Oh, yeah. Are you there, Derik?
Mm-hmm.
You're frozen. There you go.
You were getting the circle. Maybe I was frozen. You were frozen. I was frozen. I don't know whose was.
Oh, my
We
God.
need a technical sponsor.
Oh, Lord. But anyway, the Crew go up 2-1 after the 65th minute on a brace by Diego. Who stood out to you? Who's your man of the match?
Oh, Diego, easily. I mean, the weeks before, we looked a little lackluster at times. And so to see him really, in my opinion, kind of put the team on his back in that regard, to score those 2 goals, I loved. I'm always juiced when any player is shooting from outside the box or right around the line. That's like the typical, like if you're in the stands, I don't know if anyone else is like me, where I'm always like, shoot it, shoot, nonstop. And then they finally do it and score. You're like, you feel vindicated as if you're like a coach or something. So when you see those, you love them. But I'd love to see him really pick it up in this game, and hopefully it continues. I mean, but that was the game for him where he's like, all right, you know what? I'm going to turn it on and I'm going to be taking some shots here. And it worked.
I'd have to say my man of the match goes to the whole back line.
Yeah.
Only allowing 1 goal by Benteke, and other than that, they made key stops. There was one in the second half where Schulte got beat, and it was a wide open, and I think Zawarski was there to clear it. So I mean, the whole back line gets my man of the match. Really quick, what worked, what didn't work for you?
I don't know that there was a lot that didn't work per se. I think I don't know that I have something that didn't work. I would say what did work overall is being able to incorporate some players in that we're still newer in the seasons, like Herrera and some of these others that maybe are playing more than what we would have maybe expected. But obviously with international duty and some of that, like some of our guys are still sitting out a little bit or not playing as much, you name it. But I think that they're playing better and better every week. And the team seems to be putting it together. And even a game like New York, where they didn't give up a goal and they dominated, they didn't score a goal, but at the same time, we're undefeated. So everybody's doing exactly what they need to do. And that in general for me is working. And I can't really complain about a whole lot of that. We can nitpick, but overall, there's not a lot that isn't working so much as if like the collective group is working really well.
Agreed. I think they just needed to get back playing Nazi ball, Nazi system. That's it. Mm-hmm. And just believe. Use the Ted Lasso. Just believe. Believe. Yeah. They just need to believe in themselves. And apparently, looking at this Rossi goal, just how it rainbow arced down. Keeper was frozen, like he ain't know what to do.
And he kind of top shelved it too, right? Wasn't it pretty like?
Yeah, it was top shelf.
I think that goal, that keeper, there's no way. He probably stood there and was like, either this thing's going in and it's going to be insane, or this thing's flying way over and I don't even need to really make a move towards it. Obviously, he got screwed on that one, but it was a hell of a shot. I mean, that's the type of thing you want to see really good superstars do. I'm not expecting that out of everybody on the team to be able to hit those types of shots, but someone like Diego, when he hits them, you're like, yes, we know you can do these, and now you're out here showing it. Like that's exactly what you want.
So moving on, were you there Wednesday or Tuesday?
No, I was at my final Blue Jackets game of my ticket package, which I did not know I had until Tuesday morning. So unfortunately, I was not, but I am going to give like some strong kudos to the fans that were there, because I feel like they're building. I saw what was it, their next game, I believe, was that the one that was moved to lower.com?
Yes. So their home opener is Sunday. Got moved to lower.com.
Okay. Yes. So that was what I saw. And I'm like, that's great. I mean, obviously, the fans that are coming, they're building it up. They're the front office and everyone is seeing there's a reason to start moving some of these games over there. And of course, we love historic Crew Stadium, but everybody is starting to show up more and more. And I predict that the next round, I don't know if we host the next round or not, but if we host any more of them, they'll be at lower.com, and the crowd is only going to get bigger and bigger every time. So I'd love that everyone is showing up. I will be there next time. Sunday, what time is the game Sunday?
6.
Okay. I've got prior commitments at 6 o'clock on Sunday. Actually, maybe earlier than that, but we will see. I want to be there. And I know that I was giving people some crap last week, so I want to be the first one to admit that everyone is showing up, and shame on me. And so,
yep, shame on you.
Shame on me. I'm here to admit it. I will admit the fault.
Crew 2 took on Lexington SC at lower.com on Tuesday and got on the board early.
Really early.
From a goal from Owen Prestis. With the assist going from Chase Adams. So it was 1-0 early. I believe I wasn't there in time for that, but I want to say it went into halftime 1-0.
Yeah, I think
if I can remember.
I was checking pretty heavily for updates of times, and I think it was 1-0 at half, and then obviously coming out of half is
it
started
just
really late to him. Yeah.
Picked up another goal in the second half, and then Brett Adu-Giamfi came into the game, and I want to say probably about 5-10 minutes of him being in there, gets on the board, makes it 3-0, right? Can we call this a cup set?
I saw them saying that. Is it? I mean, I guess I don't know enough about some of these other teams. Some of them I know a little bit more about. Lexington, from what we've talked about, I know they were really good, but I tend to think that overall Crew 2 is, I mean, there was a big turnover, but I tend to think we're pretty decent.
I mean, but it's a USL 1 team.
Okay, good point.
Versus next pro. I mean, do you call it a cup set, with it being pretty much the average age on the team is 18 years old?
When you put it into that type of context, yeah, that's a really good point. You're talking about as more or less a high school team, like a bunch of seniors in high school running around out there, just taking it to them.
And it was honestly a defensive game, honestly. Even though Crew 2 got on the board first, there was some times where Lexington, was going to put it, could have put it back there, but the defense stood on its head. Luke Pruder got the start, who was one of Columbus Crew's draft picks in the Super Draft. Just everybody was playing.
I will say this. You know how a lot of times people will kind of poo-poo the Super Draft in a lot of cases. I feel like we have really in the past few years made use of those draft picks. We have a lot of good people on both Crew 2 and our first team who have been super draft picks for us. And I got to commend them for that, because a lot of people kind of just gloss over the Super Draft at this point.
Yeah, they it was really nice to pick up that second win in US Open Cup, which, by the way, you guys could go over to our YouTube channel and see the post game from both players and assistant head coach Josh Williams. It's hard, man. It's crazy calling him assistant coach now. But you could go check out the post game from all three of them. I asked Owen, what did his dad, what kind of advice and motivation did he give him, and, about playing in the Open Cup. And he said that, his dad was on the O2 team that won the Open Cup, and that the ring sits in their office
Oh,
as a
that's so
reminder.
cool.
So, but then, his dad said at the end of the day, it's soccer. Just go play, right?
Yeah.
But for Peepa and for Josh and for Owen's dad, to just acknowledge what this tournament means to the city, and sharing with some of these young kids, what this tournament means and how much it means to not only soccer but to the city of Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
It really is, it gives them almost a what do you want to call it, a bigger motivation, right? It was like
Absolutely.
when Crew 2 played Austin in the next Pro Cup championship game in the second season, the next pro, right? They were sat down, the team was told about the rivalry. It's not really a rivalry, but why Columbus hates Austin,
Mm-hmm.
right? And why, there's so much disdain for, that ownership group. And they told him, like, look, he was trying to take this away from the city.
Like those guys wouldn't be playing in that if they had won. Like you would literally not be in this situation that you're in right there. And yeah, for some of them, I mean, they might have been a little too young to like really get the gravity of it. But I mean, talk about motivation. I mean, if you have, people to come in and talk about that. I mean, that was such a big thing that I'm sure the gravity of it all is not lost on that, group of players.
Yeah. So I mean, and then to come in here, get two rounds, in the Open Cup, winning it, now going into the third round. I believe the draw is tomorrow.
I was just gonna ask because I didn't see initially who they're playing next game, so I didn't know if they like kind of do a draw now or if there's already kind of brackets set up for it.
No, it's still a draw.
Okay.
Still draws.
Is there a chance we would host another game with the way the draw works? Because I know with MLS teams and stuff coming in, that could be a lot different of a. It would probably have to shake out a certain way, I would imagine.
That's a question for Ty.
Okay.
He does more with Open Cup than I do.
Oh, okay.
Or no. But needless to say, they won 3-0, got the clean sheet.
Put on the show.
Man. We teased a little bit about somebody getting signed up to a first team contract. And he now has 2 starts with the Columbus Crew. Cesar Ruvalcaba. What's your take on him?
I mean, I'm always surprised when somebody gets signed to a first team deal either before they play or especially after like one game, they make such an impact that they're like, we got to sign him. Obviously, maybe some of that is because we already need depth. So if we can get depth from people who we already have in our system, fantastic. But I mean, in both cases, has played really well. Like I would say from an average fan who's maybe not as plugged into like Crew 2 Academy and stuff like that, like that is incredible to see. And I'm always going to have a soft spot for like any of our people coming up through our system who we then bring up to a first team, and especially when they succeed, because we've certainly seen a few that maybe can't over the time make their way into game day rosters or even starting, and he has looked exactly like he fits in, which is awesome. That's almost like signing a player, on the market without having to spend any money, in that type of way, which when it comes down to, those types of things, I love that because that's just more money you can spend elsewhere.
Here's the fun fact about him. He was drafted in the Super Draft as the 51st overall.
Super Draft, love it. Again, we're out here killing it in the Super Draft.
From SMU.
It's not a soccer powerhouse, right?
No.
I was gonna
from
say.
Southern
So
the Mustangs. So he,
right.
he
Okay.
got drafted from them. Signed a next pro contract on March 5th
Whoa. This year, right?
of this year. Has a next pro contract. And then just signed a first team contract on what date was it?
It was still in March. I
Yeah,
mean, I know it's only
in
April
March.
2nd, but it wasn't like so within a month, less than 30 days, he has made his way all the way up to that. I mean, that's remarkable.
So the contract is good for the 2025 season with club options for 26 and 27.
Ooh,
He's
that's
only
nice.
23.
Okay.
So needless to say, I think there's a big upside. He's hungry. He loves the city. He loves the organization. He was excited that, the team, was able to draft him.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
and Issa said, has seen, his work ethic and everything and the consistency, and so was Nancy. And just for him, it was, the consistency that he's seen in, the training week in and week out and getting integrated into that first team.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, one of the reasons why he got that first team contract. Do we see him getting plenty of play this year?
I think to Manuel's point about he's a draft pick. Was it Nancy who kind of pushed for him to get signed? Obviously, circumstances dictated we needed him. I do agree that probably played a factor in that for sure. But I think it's also of like, what can you make of your time now that you get it? And we have said that about like a Diego or a Jason Russell Rowe of like, if we bring in some big striker at the end of April or even in the summer window, you guys have this time period to really solidify that you are the dude on the team. And I think in this case, he can really make a name for himself of, I know that I got signed really quickly. Maybe some of it is because we have a short bench and we need depth. But if you're doing a good job, you inevitably force everybody else on the team to try to win that playing time back. He is jockeying for playing time, but now if he's coming out here and putting out good games, then it's like, hey, like if I'm beating some of you who's making double, triple the amount of me and has way more playing time, then you all need to step up or I'm going to take that spot. So I think at least in the interim, the short period of time that's coming up until the window closes, he'll get playing time. If they bring in some reinforcements in that position, then maybe you start to see a little bit more of mixing and maybe his playing time were to go down. But if they don't do that and they have a lot of confidence in him, then I think for the foreseeable future, and we're only going off of 2 games, mind you, so of course that could drastically change if he comes out and lays an egg or something when he plays, but the next game. But I think there's a lot of potential there. And I think, we've done that with a lot of guys that now are regulars on this team. Of they come up and there's a lot of potential, and then they make the best of what they have. So I think the runway is his. Like it's the kind of like, here's your chance. Like go for it. Like you're playing really well now. If you can go for it, sure. So I think at least in a short period of time, yeah, based upon what we've seen, even in just 2 games.
All righty. So now we're moving on. We do got a special guest. Elias, I'm just going to say Elias G from The Ball is Round. I'm not going to butcher your name.
Totally understandable. Don't worry about it.
Welcome. Welcome to the Wisemen.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. Very happy to be here.
How do you say your last name?
Grigoriadis.
Grigoriadis.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool.
Not the scariest Greek name out there, but it's still not easy when you see it for the first time.
Introduce yourself to the people. Where are you from?
Yeah, I'm from Montreal. I cover CF Montreal for The Ball is Round, which is the weekly podcast we do, covering not just the team, but Montreal soccer in general. We're finally getting a women's team. We cover national team stuff too, and I also write for the Canadian Press, so you can find all my written stuff there as well. But yeah, I'm very happy to be here, guys. Again, thank you for inviting me.
Not a problem. So
Awesome.
you guys took on Chicago
Yeah,
with the interim head
finally.
coach. What was your take on? Because we know Laurent Courtois from being here with Crew
Yeah.
2.
Mhm.
What was your take on them letting him go this early?
It was never an easy situation, right? Every year they start with massive road trips, and now the fact that their secondary venue is under reconstruction, they were never going to even get like a respite from that. Usually it's like, 3 road games to start, then you get a home game, and then like another 3 or 4 until all the snow melts. But the last 2 years have been like, 6 and 7 game road trips to open the season. So for him, his first 2 years were both, you know, just in terms of schedule wise, were historically brutal for him. And I do feel bad because I do think it was early. All the new signings they brought in all came in, almost all of them came in injured. At least the big ones that should have been in starting contention spots. Um, None of them, they finally just got back to training with the club, in game simulations. And hopefully we'll get to see them this weekend. But even then, it's like maybe they come off the bench. So you take into account all of that, all the injuries. You're missing Cesar Ruvalcaba, your captain. Um, yeah, it's not ideal. But they mentioned it. They've been thinking about this since week 2, which means like when you've been thinking about this after game number 2, you may as well just get it over with and not, prolong anyone's suffering. But at the same time, it felt really soon. But
Did they
MLS,
say
right?
why? Was there ever any like clue as to why after only week 2 they were already thinking about that?
It wasn't the style they wanted. And to be fair, with the lineup he had, he was playing much more conservatively than he was even last year.
Hmm.
Again, you don't have Joseph Martinez, the designated player, you quote unquote designated player you bring in to replace him isn't starting because he's still rehabbing an injury that took way longer than expected. I understand why he played a bit more negatively, but at the same time, if they didn't see the kind of football they wanted to see,
Better to do it
they're
now
not going
than later.
to. Exactly. He is
Yeah.
also the hire from the previous administration, from the previous sporting director, Olivier Renard, that left halfway through last season, which again, never a dull moment with this club. But that also probably, has something to do with it, where they want maybe a clean slate with this new sporting direction that they're going with. But yeah, I feel bad for him because I thought he was a really good coach. I mean, yeah, you guys are familiar with him as well at the Columbus Crew too, and he was a really cool guy. He was a really great interview. But that's the business sometimes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, you guys also still have Corey Ray as well,
Yes,
who is
yes.
a nice mastermind and things too. But you got, like I said, you guys took on Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Was hoping that you guys would have had the interim head coach luck that
Yeah.
you see in soccer, that whenever
I was
there's an
saying
interim
that
head
last week.
coach.
I thought for sure that was going down.
Yeah, that was the case really because you know in almost every single metric, and if you include the eye test, they played Chicago off the pitch.
Hmm.
They had more chances, they had more possession, they were in more dangerous areas more often, but that final finishing was just not there. It wasn't just, your striker Prince was up top, but it's also, it was everyone. Every single forward had a really good chance. There were 4 different players that had a one-on-one with Chris Brady, and none of it went in. So a 1-1 draw was kind of the bare minimum with the way the game was going, which is why I wasn't too thrilled with it, because again, they did get that new coach buff, if you will,
Hmm.
on the pitch, and in terms of the game momentum, but they just couldn't finish it. They couldn't really make good on it, which is, look, it's their second point of the season, so I mean, you'll take what you can get at this rate. But yeah, it should have been 3, honestly.
So you guys are coming into Lower.com Field this Saturday. What can we expect from Montreal to bring into this game?
Well, they're moving away from the 3-back. They brought a 4-2-3-1 to Chicago. Uh, they have proper wingers this year. It's not just Mahala Poku as the only out and out winger. They have like 3 or 4 proper natural position wingers. So they're going to be looking to exploit that. The double pivot of Nathan, Saliba, and Samuel Piet is still the go-to, and it still feels like they're building the team around that double pivot almost, because that's really the only position that hasn't changed at all throughout, Laurent Courtois and this coaching change. That still seems to be the status quo, but they played very open against Chicago, because Chicago's a team that doesn't really enjoy that much possession. When you play against a team like Columbus that, is much better in possession and can hurt you with that, I'm very curious to see how this team defends. They defended Hugo Kuipers phenomenally. They completely marked him out of the game, which is something that I'm really impressed by. But, Columbus, I feel like you guys are more of a team that scores. Yeah, Rossi's in phenomenal form, but you guys attack by committee. It's a team effort all the time. So I'm very curious to see how the team defense aspect of it goes with a brand new defensive shape. But yeah, you could expect offense. Honestly, this team and this coach, specifically Marco Donadel, said it from the get-go. If we lose, we're going to do it while attacking. So for the first time ever, I think Montreal's, not ever, but in a long time, I think Montreal's a team that's going to be looking for, a shootout every game, and we'll see if they can keep pace, but the finishing still has to get there.
So is that almost similar like when you guys had Nancy up there?
Yes and no. I mean, Nancy was tactically a bit more sound. This is still the coach's second game, but in terms of, just throwing players forward and figuring out the rest afterwards, that is kind of a similar vibe. I'm more curious to see how they handle the defensive side of the ball, because again, this is a new system, this is a new coach, but look, on ball defending, they've done very well. It's the team defending that they struggled at this year. And so that's why I'm kind of worried about a team like Columbus that can break you down so many different ways. So it'll be a very interesting matchup, and it'll be a very interesting challenge for them defensively.
Yeah, that's I like the idea that they're coming in and they're just going to be going fast and furious, though. I feel like those are fun matchups, at least from like a viewer standpoint,
Absolutely true.
And I'm sure from a Montreal standpoint too, like how some of the previous years have gone, switching to that is at least like, depending on, who you've got out there. And obviously, like you said, a lot of people are injured, but being able to come in and just go all out for it, I think I would imagine, and I'm sure at some point Crew has kind of done this too, of you feel like you could win any game if you have that, like you said, get the finishing touches in the last, part of the pitch is the most important part, but getting to that point and having a solid shot. And I'm excited for that, just from a Crew perspective of watching that and seeing how it goes. And like you said, from the defensive side, like some of these teams we played so far, they let us have all the possession, and at times you don't get necessarily they don't have a lot of offense. They're trying to just wait to kind of jump on something and then take off and try to score, versus a team that's just kind of, they're going all out at you. So I think it'll be a good test for sure from our end too, which is really, like I said, exciting.
I think it's also a reputation kind of thing where everyone knows what you get with Columbus. With Montreal, still not sure, so you kind of don't really know how teams will approach you. But Columbus has been playing like this since Nancy got there, right? So it's a pretty well-established brand that you guys will attack this way and, try and stop it if you can, kind of thing. So teams brace themselves for that. But Montreal, it's new, and I think that maybe caught Chicago off guard. Definitely caught them off guard in the first half hour, because they had no real idea what was going on. You could tell that they were thrown off by the four-back. So I'm sure that, Nancy and Columbus will have had the week to adjust. But it's a new look team, just in terms of the way, and what they look for as well. And what they look for to build out from the back, and what they look for once they get into that final third. Their patterns look different. So hopefully they can build on that and really, give the teams a run for their money.
What's it got to take for Montreal to leave out of there with the win?
A win? Jeez. Yeah, just honestly clinical finishing. Against Chicago, they defended so well and they controlled the tempo. And in MLS especially, it's so tough for any road team that you kind of just have to hope to manage the pace of the game as well as you can. That's what the most successful road teams do, and they did a very good job at that. It's a different level of challenge against Columbus in that respect, at least. So I think it's more just not giving away anything easy, because this team is still one that things go bad, it starts to snowball a little bit, and it takes them a while to get their bearings back. So I think it's just, staying on top of all the different ways you can get hurt, and the team defense. That really is the most key part, because we don't really know how they defend as a unit in this new system, because they didn't really have to do it that much against Chicago. So there's a lot of questions on that respect.
Who's one player that, like, individuals or fans that aren't as familiar with Montreal, who's one player that we should keep our eye on, or maybe has the potential to really shine off the pitch versus the other guys on the field?
There's two, really. I mean, Caden Clark
Mhm.
is the obvious answer, right? He ended last year in incredible form, and this year's been a slow, very slow start. But again, he's this guy that just is always itching to do something. And if it's an open game, like I'm sure Columbus will probably want it to be, he could end up getting in some really dangerous spots. But for me, the biggest revelation this year, and he ended last year with well too, is George Campbell in defense, because he has gotten some brutal assignments and done them perfectly. Christian Benteke, Sam Surge, and Hugo Kuipers in back-to-back-to-back weeks, and he shut all three of them down. And that was like his individual assignment, and he's done a phenomenal job. I think that he's arguably the best player on the team so far this year. He's probably looking at a national team call-up, with again, with the way the American defense is looking, but also just the way he's playing. Um, he looks to be a real contender for that. But yeah, I think that, again, a team like Columbus that has many different weapons, he's probably going to be a bit busier. But yeah, he is in phenomenal form, and he made the team of the week last year. The MLS team of the week. And usually, it's only for goal scorers, and he did it without any kind of offensive contribution. So yeah, no, he is massively deserving of any kind of flowers he's getting. And if they do leave with a result, it will be in large part to the kind of help he brings.
If you had to call it a heavyweight matchup, what is one matchup in this match that you're looking to watch during the game?
It's got to be in the midfield for me. I love the Columbus midfield. I've loved the way that you guys operate. You guys have had some new entries and some departures. I'm aware of that, but I'd love to see the challenge that Nathan Saliba and Samuel Piet are going to have as a double pivot, because they've done a very good job at navigating different kinds of teams. And this finally feels like an environment, or at least a system, where they can now exert more control over the game, because more responsibility is thrust upon them. There's no five back behind them now to kind of as a safety net. So in this battle in the midfield, I think is going to be really interesting, because again, this is, Wilfried Nancy, he's going to put all his pieces in the right spots, and it's going to be a very interesting battle. And I mean, Sarah Piet and Nathan Silva both played under him. They're both intimately aware of the kind of coach he is. So there's a lot of familiarity there. I think it's going to be a very interesting battle, and that could decide the game, honestly.
That's a good point. Yeah. Especially if we have Nagby out, which he's day-to-day right now. So
He is. I mean, Saliba didn't play against Chicago. He was injured, but he's been training all week with the group. So I assume he'll be back in his usual starting spot.
Mm-hmm.
If Nagby could go, he'll go. Nah, he was off to the side in training today. Score prediction.
Oh, that's a tough part, because there's so many questions about this new team. I'm gonna go with a 2-1 for Columbus. I thought about it being a draw, just because you guys got 3 draws this year. Last year again, it drew 0-0 when Montreal came to town. I'm gonna go with 2-1 for Columbus. I think they still have to work out the finishing, and I think that'll hurt them. And the counterattack is going to be brutal. So yeah, that's what I'm going with.
Not bad. We haven't done this in a while, but we have a game called Yellow Card, Red Card. Yellow card, it doesn't have to be soccer related.
Okay.
So it could be yellow card is something that you don't like, but you can tolerate.
Mm-hmm.
Red card is something that you absolutely despise.
Okay.
Have at it. What's your yellow card?
My yellow card. My yellow card is. Oof. Okay, I'm on the spot here. I'm gonna try and keep it football related somewhat. My yellow card is refs that are don't want to punish simulation. That bothers me. Because especially this year, they're more encouraged to punish simulation and give the yellow card, and they still don't do it. And it's so annoyingly obvious. Like, just give them, you do it once, and no one's gonna do it again for the rest of the game.
I love that. That's such an underrated
That
thing.
kinda
I feel like
bothers
we don't like spotlight enough is when that happens and there's no like it's obvious, like you said, it's obvious and there's no calling it out at all.
What's your red card?
Red card. Actually, yeah, okay. My red card for me, and this has been bothering me for a couple years now, and I've complained about it often. It's when coaches preemptively throw in like 2 or 3 defensive substitutions because they've got a result and they're trying to hang on to it, and they do it at like before the hour mark. That pisses because it never works, and every coach does it, and it's almost like they lose their nerve. They're like, guys, don't panic, just throw defenders at it, and that's never the solution because you have no attack and counter threat, and then you just spend the rest of the game, doing an offense defense drill basically. That pisses me off to no end, and whenever I see a team do it, I'm like, you already had the result. Just keep doing what you're doing and maybe make some like for like substitutions, but then they'll like take the striker off and add like a fourth center back on the field. I'm like, this I already know what's gonna happen. And it happens almost every single time. And they get equalized or they end up losing, and it just
You are perfectly describing the last half of the last year of our Caleb Porter era. Like it was nonstop throwing in defenders, parking the bus, and just holding on for dear life. And like you said, I distinctly remember like almost every game, someone would either score an equalizer or a game winner at the end, and it was just absolutely maddening.
My single biggest pet peeve in football, especially from coaches, it bothers me to no end. Like, how are you going to lose your nerve now and just throw in defenders? I can't stand it.
That is a good one. That's a really good one.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the show, Elias. Have you been down to lower.com?
I have never had the pleasure, but I hear it's one of the nicer grounds in MLS, and it's definitely high up on my list. Also because, you guys play a very attractive brand of football. So if I've got to pick a ground and also an entertaining game to go watch, Columbus is not that bad.
It's definitely a fortress. Players they don't like coming here because of how loud.
That's what I heard as well. I love a good atmosphere. I'm a sucker for good atmosphere. So,
and it's a fun environment, and it's not that fanatic hostile.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right. It's not that fanatic hostile environment. It could get pretty loud. It could get a little
ears ringing a little bit
ruckus.
At times.
Yes. Yeah, it could get a little ruckus, but it's not like, what you see at most of these, the fights and,
yeah, like what
that.
happened last week with, was it LAFC in San Diego?
Oh, yeah.
I saw that on Twitter.
That is like not a good representation at all.
At the same time, I was like, both this one club is 1 year old, the other club is like 4 years old. How do you already have like, hooliganism? You guys have been around for like 5 minutes.
It's so bad.
It gives the club a bad look. It gives the supporters a bad look too, right? Because now it's just like it's gonna be painted with a broad brush, and it's just like no, because LAFC honestly has some pretty good atmosphere, but now it's gonna be like that's the guy that sucker punched the other guy.
Yeah, That was just crazy.
We had the same thing happen in
all
Montreal and Toronto. There was a problem with the security, and there was no security in the away supporter section. So all the traveling fans that went to Toronto got like ambushed, and there was a whole thing during the Canadian Championship. It was brutal, and it was definitely not a good look. And Montreal actually closed the supporter section, the away supporter section for the return leg. So
Wow.
it's not a good look.
Yeah.
No, it's never good.
It's been a blast having you on here.
Thank
Elias.
you so much for having me.
Tell all these wonderful and fine men and women out there in internet land where they can find you.
Yeah, so again, we are live. The Balls Round is live every Sunday at 7:30. You can also find me at the Canadian Press, where I write, mostly just game recaps. But yeah, the Ball is Round Montreal. It's Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, any kind of social media. We're on there, and we're posting clips, and we're interacting with you guys. So if you ever want to learn more about Montreal or Canadian soccer, come on down and say hi.
Thanks for coming on. We look forward to having you back on again.
I'd love to.
Who knows? Maybe one of us will jump on, when we have that away match up there in Montreal.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Heck yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for coming
Thanks,
out.
Elias. Have a great day.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Fun guy.
Yeah. I did not realize that Toronto likes to mix it up with fans. I mean,
yeah, they do.
We had the one at the old stadium where they ambushed a bunch of our fans and were shooting what do they call those? The Roman candles at them, or whatever they call those fireworks. And I remember that all going down and was just like, what on earth? So not good. Don't do that, people. Everyone's just a fan. You don't have to get into fights. I don't think we see that a lot in Columbus, thankfully. But yeah, there are a few bad eggs out there that are ruining it in terms of a reputation for sure for these teams.
Derik, we can't hear you.
You can't hear this?
Now you can hear.
What? I literally did nothing. All right, it's the headphones. Okay, noted.
Yes.
I just said that
headphones.
There are a few bad eggs out there.
Oh my God. When do you get you some new headphones?
I know. I don't get it. These have worked all week or all the other weeks, and now they are not working.
Oh. So real quick, what's it got to take for Columbus to win this Saturday?
I think the same thing that we've seen that we saw against DC. Just play our brand of ball. It seems like they're getting into form with getting some players who maybe aren't as familiar into the Nancy ball style, and it'll be interesting to see. Like he said, they're going to throw something out there that maybe we're not as familiar with. Not that I think that's going to change our tactics a whole lot to begin with, but I believe we'll have Mo Farsi back. I saw that they held him out just to get him more rest, which is exciting. And so I think it's just that. Just keep going with confidence. And if I forget the name, what do you say, Campbell? It ends up man marking a lot of Diego, then you might get a lot of Jason Russell Rowe action out there, hopefully, to kind of pick up the pace of that a little bit. But just confidence. I think they just need to go out there and have confidence, and don't take a million shots if you're not on, in terms of getting shots on goal. But I think overall, if everyone just goes out there with confidence that they can beat this team, I think we should be on the right path to a victory for sure.
Very positive note. We did see Moreira come in late in the game against DC. So, he's starting to get back into game speed after his injury. Mo Farsi was with the participating fully with the first team today.
Oh, good. Okay.
Per reports from Brianna McKay of the Dispatch, who also saw Nagby off to the side, training and, rehabbing. So I think if he doesn't go, I think you see I honestly think you see Taha come in.
Oh, really?
I think you see him, or you might get a Derik and you might get Derik up there. I don't know how Rudy. Maybe Rudy might be ready
Mm-hmm.
to come back.
That's
You know,
someone that I
you.
feel like we've been doing well without, that I don't want them to rush him back necessarily because it doesn't feel like it's necessary.
I think this game would be one for him to come back to shake some of that rust off of coming off that injury.
Yeah.
If he can't go, I expect we might see Yevon in the center with Molde out there at the left, with Marrera there on the right, with Sean, going up there in the midfield with Shambo.
I think that I like that the best.
And then
Just
you'll
in
have
like on paper, I think I would like that if Nagby can't go. That's what I would prefer.
and then of course, you would have Max and you would have Mo out there on the wings.
Mm-hmm.
Dewan, you might have Dewan up there too with Diego, and because Dewan was playing good against DC.
He's starting
shaking
to pick
things
it back
off.
up. Yeah, I've liked what I've seen with him the past 2 weeks now.
I just think it's one of those things with Nancy's system that you need to be more have consistent time, and then everything will fine tune itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think you see Dewan, Diego, and Jason up there in the front, Shambo and Sean there in the middle, with Mo and Arston on the wings. Hell, you might even see Dewan on the wing and Arston up there with Diego and Jason. Rounding that out. But I don't see Nancy going away from his 3 backs.
No.
So it's going to be fun. Of course, we know who's going to be in net.
Oh, yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. What's your score?
It's funny he said 2-1 because as I was thinking about it as he was saying that, I was kind of thinking that too. Like, I feel like the unpredictability slightly, they may be able to squeak one in. But I feel like we're in good form right now where I don't want to predict anything too crazy from a goal scoring, but I think that you get at least one from Jason Russell-Rowe. Diego, I would love to see him continue on form and get one also. But I'm sure there's a dark horse in there. I don't quite know who I would take as that necessarily. But I feel pretty good about a Jason Russell-Rowe goal being one of the two.
I'm going to say a brace by Jason.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That'd be amazing. Him and Diego just battling it out for who's going to lead in goal scoring week to week. That would be, I don't think anyone would be mad about that.
I'm calling it now. Yevon's going to get a goal.
You've been close every week on the like more random player to score. So you are due, and I love that.
Yeah, no, I really think Yevon's going to get one. Matter of fact, if it's lined up like it is, I'm going to go 4-0.
Please.
With a brace by Jason. Molde gets a goal.
Okay. I could see that.
And so does Yevon. But more than likely, we might see a Sean Sawatsky, header off of a corner. Even Dylan might even get in on the scoring this week. So I mean,
I was thinking that when you were saying that if he played like midfield, like he obviously, even when he does play midfield, he creeps pretty high up versus like some of our other guys who play midfield. And so I think that like if I were to pick someone different than Yevon for like a dark horse one, he would be up there for sure because he's shown that he definitely has the ability to shoot when the time is right. It's just, getting it on target and in the net, obviously, but that would be very nice. And
Yeah,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean, we are, as much as like we talk about sometimes our offense maybe not showing up every game and everything like that, we are still undefeated. And we are in, I think it's third place right now, like maybe 1 point behind second, I think. Unless I looked at that like Sunday morning or something like that before the later game on Sunday. But
I'll tell you right now. We are tied with Philly with 12 points.
Amazing. And I saw, I think
we're 1 point away from first with Inter Miami with 13.
You mean the greatest team? They've got all the MVPs, the whole 9 yards. I'm only 1 point out from them.
And Chicago's in fourth with 11 points.
That's why. If you would have asked me a few weeks ago when we spoke to our friend, when we thought that he was crazy about some of his takes, I mean, he's been on so far. So, I mean, good. That could turn into a big rivalry again. I don't know when we play again next. Hopefully it's later in the season. But that would be big. And I think I saw a tweet from, I think it was Chris Doran, that compared the last 3 seasons and all of our stats. Like, I think most of them are from an offensive perspective through how many ever games we've done right now. And we are literally in every stat, like right in line with those seasons. So I think as much as we all want to see somebody come in from a transfer perspective, I think most people would also agree you want the right person, not just a person. And so I think we should, and it's tempered a little bit, which is nice, but like, I just want to keep, bringing that up that, we should be excited about where we're at right now because it's very in line with where we have been in the past. And, we're not, I'm just talking about regular season, not, postseason, obviously, when we're comparing them all, but we're right in line with where we have been historically under Nancy. And so that it should give us all a lot of confidence, especially knowing that at some point we will add a future piece that could really up the level from there, which is amazing.
Yeah. And then our little sisters down south in Kentucky FC, they're sitting in 10th right now.
I saw that.
No, they're sitting in 8th. I'm sorry.
And to a degree, they're kind of, I mean, they've been wildly underperforming. And I would imagine that the 8th place, while everyone's not happy about that, like, they're probably lucky to be in 8th at this point, based upon some of the like general highlights and stuff I've seen from how they've been playing. Not that we're keeping track or anything, but you hate to see it.
Hey, so looking at whatchamacallit, FanDuel, looking at the scores.
Yeah, what's it looking like?
Diego is plus 130. Jason is plus 145. Chase Adams is plus 210.
I know we talked about this in our breakfast one. What is going on with these sports books and Chase Adams? It's not going to happen right now.
Cole Maroka is plus 240. Max is plus 240. Lassie Lapinainen is plus 300. AZ is plus 310. That's all crew players or right there at the top. And then you got Veroni for Montreal, Owusu, and then Taha is plus 380. Shambo is plus 390.
Okay.
Sawatsky's plus 500.
Now we're getting into territory I like to bet.
Herrera is plus 600. DeJuan Jones plus 750. Nagby plus 800. Mo plus 900.
Ooh, that's tempting.
Malde is at plus 1100. Rudy at plus 11. Derek Jones at plus 11. Cesar at plus 1,200. Sajic plus 1,300. Morera plus 1,400. Yevon plus 1,800.
That's the move. I think that is if you got a few, dollars in your couch cushions, I think that is where you need to go.
Tristan Brown plus 1,900, which he went coming off the bench. He almost,
Look good.
Yeah. And Owen Precious is plus 1,800.
There's some value with that bottom part. Like, again, these sports books, like, I know you could, like, if you're going to bet Diego Rossi, you're either betting a lot of money because you feel like it's really going to happen, or you're going to end up parlaying that with like other things, which is typically what I end up doing if I'm going to add those in it. What is Russell Rowe to score a brace? I used to do that a lot with Cucho, which more often than not kind of paid off.
Scored 2 or more goals. Plus 750.
I mean,
Diego's plus 650.
I like the Jason Russell Rowe one better. I don't know why. I just feel like he is definitely going to show up for this game.
I mean, if you want to go bold, Mo Farsi to score 2 goals is plus 5,000. DeJuan Jones is plus 5,000. Cesar is plus 5,000. Chaburko is plus 5,000.
Wow.
Derek Jones is plus 5,000. Sean Zawoski plus 5,000. Rudy plus 5. Malday at plus 5. Steven at plus 5. Taha at plus 2,900. Dylan at plus 29. AZ at plus 22. Lassie at plus 2,000. Cole at plus 1,500. Max at plus 15. Chase Adams at plus 1,200.
It's just... Chaburko with the header, Manuel says, that could definitely be the type of spot where he scores. Like, I wasn't thinking about that. Like, I was thinking more of like some kind of random run of play, but a header scenario makes a lot of sense. Like,
it does.
With the headers, I feel like in crew history, we have not statistically had like other than maybe you could give like a Jossie Zardes because he was like pretty tall, or maybe even Christian, like you had a little more confidence in him. But I feel like with our team now, the way it's constructed is if we get a corner, we actually get one like a good corner in, which sometimes seems impossible at times. Some like a lot of our defensive guys are definitely the ones that are probably more likely to score on those than any of our offensive guys. So they're just kind of shorter. For the lack of, that's not like anything crazy to say. Like obviously, if they're shorter, it's going to be more difficult.
Final thoughts. What's your burning desires?
Final thoughts. If it's supposed to be potentially rainy on Saturday night, do not let that dissuade you, fans, from going to the game. Unless it's a thunderstorm, then I totally get it. But they sell very nice rain jackets. I have one from like literally 10 years ago with the old crew logo that I still rock that as my rain jacket all the time. And it is like, it's in perfect shape. And so you can actually go to the crew store and buy something like that at roughly the same price, if not less than the Goosebumps kit. Because I looked to see, because they had some pretty cool jackets. Or you just buy a poncho for like $2 at a gas station. But either way, there's a lot of covering. The roof typically doesn't leak. Sometimes in the Nordex section, it does leak a little bit. But in general, it's going to be nice weather. I think it's supposed to be relatively, you know what? I'll look right now. It's supposed to be relatively warm. And everyone should go out. It is going to be Saturday, high of 71, low of 53. 53 is nothing. Like, it's Columbus. That is, we deal with that on a daily basis. So get out and support the team.
Well, somebody joins in my sickoism with bold predictions. Manuel with a 4-0 win for Columbus. It's his daughter's birthday. Happy early birthday from the Wisemen Say podcast.
Yeah, happy birthday.
For a 4-0 win. Hey, let's rock with it.
Great minds think alike. Look at that. We got to bet it now. Exact score, 4-0. Do it. Probably pretty. I had a buddy for the MLS Cup Championship when we won it 2 years ago that picked the exact score and the exact goal scores, and I forget what he won, like a few $1,000s, but like had the exact as a parlay, and I could not believe it. So it's possible, people. Dreams do come true.
Oh, it's been fun. Another one in the books. Thank you, fans. Continuing to show out. We are still 18 away from 100 subscribers on YouTube.
If you're watching and commenting on YouTube and you are not subscribed, we will find out. And next episode, we're calling you out. So like and subscribe so you don't get mentioned in that way. And hit the bell or whatever's on it so that you can know when new stuff comes up too.
But it's been a blast. We definitely miss Ty. And even though he doesn't miss us, he's with ODU.
It's probably the best episode we've ever had, and if everybody wants to tell him that, feel free
to. Don't forget to go out there, follow the Ball is Round Montreal and Elias G. On his social media. You can always follow us on the Wisemen Say Pod on Twitter. I believe that's also our Instagram. I'm not on there that much. You can always find me on Twitter or X if you want to call it that. At Jerald_Lucas96. They can find Derik
at Funky Moses 17 on all the social platforms, or the ones that are commonly used.
And pretty sure everybody knows where Ty Fisher is. Hit with his Twitter. You could catch him at Fisher Tyler __ on X. If you guys would feel like you guys can post on his page and saying that he was missed, but this was the best episode. Just kidding. He probably is watching on his way back from Wright State. No, but it's always been a blast. And, once again, thank you to the fans. We are 56th on Million Podcast. You can find us on iHeart, Spotify, Overcast, Amazon, Apple, Google, YouTube. Damn. Where are some of these at?
Kick something, right? I forget it's on like Tubi, I think. Kick TV
or no, Goals TV.
Goals TV.
I can't forget about Goals TV. But really, you can find us anywhere that you get your podcast. I like also listening on iHeart as well. It's also on Amazon Video or on Amazon. So go like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
5 stars.
Of course.
Everything everyone says at the end of every podcast to listen to. Like, subscribe, 5 stars. Leave us a review. It helps us get up in our rankings, people. We want to be up in the top 25 eventually. Get us there. Help us.
We do have a supporters link that you can find in our link tree on our bio. You can also find it in Spotify. If whatever you want to donate to the show, it goes right back into the show for travel, for away matches, and also for anything that deals with the show, like software, technology, also merchandise that we do have. We are still planning on doing a giveaway when we hit 100 subscribers on YouTube. You can also find our merchandise store on our Twitter page. I believe it's also on our link tree as well. So go get your Wiseman Say gear.
We need a hat. We do not have hats. We need to get on that.
We'll work
I'm a big
on
hat
getting that
guy.
as well.
I'm not wearing one right now, but I'm a big hat guy. So,
we'll get in on that. So it's been fun. It's been real. As tradition goes, Wiseman Say.
only fools rush in.
Peace out, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Stay safe, stay cool, especially with the storms coming tonight. If you hear them sirens, get to them basements. Hug your loved ones and go Crew.
Go Crew.